She had always been a little impulsive, the kind of person who thrived on small adventures and unexpected moments. On that rainy evening, she found herself sitting alone at a small cafe, her umbrella dripping wet as she brushed the water off and tucked it beside her chair. Her friend was late, as usual, leaving her to fidget with her phone, scroll through messages, and watch the rain streak the windows. She sighed, tapping her fingers on the wooden table, feeling a mix of boredom and restlessness. The cafe was quiet except for the soft clatter of cups and the hum of a conversation from a nearby table. The smell of coffee and warm bread filled the air, a comfort in the otherwise gloomy weather. She looked around, hoping for some distraction, and that's when she noticed him. He was sitting alone, hunched over a laptop, his brow slightly furrowed in concentration. There was something about him that drew her attention, a quiet intensity that contrasted with the casual chatter around him. He wasn't dressed like someone trying to impress. His clothes were simple, neat, and understated, yet there was a certain confidence in the way he carried himself. She didn't know why, but she felt a sudden urge to do something unexpected, something playful to break the monotony of her day. Without thinking much, she leaned a little closer, lowering her voice to a whisper as if sharing a secret with the universe. "Pretend to kiss me." It was a silly, impulsive request, born out of a mix of curiosity and daring. She watched him, unsure of what to expect, feeling a rush of excitement at the possibility of breaking the invisible barrier between strangers. He looked up, eyebrows raised, a flicker of surprise in his eyes. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then, almost as if he understood the playful nature of her request, he leaned in slightly, mimicking a kiss in a way that was careful, yet humorous. She laughed, a soft, genuine laugh that startled her a little with its own spontaneity. The moment was brief, almost ephemeral, but it lingered in a way she didn't expect. She felt a strange mix of embarrassment and thrill, the kind that comes from doing something that is both daring and innocent. He smiled, a small, knowing smile, before returning to his laptop as if nothing had happened. She watched him for a few more seconds, then shook her head, laughing quietly at herself for the absurdity of it all. There was no exchange of names, no promises, no lingering glances beyond that single playful interaction. It was a momentary spark, a small rebellion against the ordinary. As she sipped her coffee, she couldn't help but replay the scene in her mind. What had possessed her to say something so bold to a complete stranger? She had always liked to surprise herself, to test the limits of her comfort, and this was certainly one of those tests. The stranger, meanwhile, seemed unbothered, almost amused, a hint of curiosity still in his eyes as he typed away. She wondered if he would remember her, if he would think of this small encounter as something notable, or if it would vanish as quickly as it had appeared, leaving only a faint, amusing memory. Her thoughts wandered as she stared out the window at the rain, wondering about the people who pass through life without ever noticing the small joys and unexpected moments that can make a day remarkable. She thought about how a simple cafe, a rainy evening, and a fleeting impulse could create something memorable, something that might linger in the mind long after it was over. She had no idea who he really was, what he did, or why he seemed so different from everyone else in the room. And perhaps that was what made the encounter so thrilling. The mystery, the unknown element that kept her imagination alive. Eventually, her friend arrived, apologizing for the delay, and completely unaware of the little adventure that had just occurred. They chatted, laughed, and sipped their coffee, but a part of her mind kept drifting back to that stranger, to the way he had played along without hesitation, and the small, shared joke that only they understood. She felt a tiny spark of connection, a subtle reminder that life could be unpredictable, and sometimes the most ordinary moments held the most extraordinary surprises. As they left the cafe and stepped into the rainy evening, she found herself glancing back one last time. The stranger was still there, absorbed in his work, completely unaware of the small ripple he had created in her day. She smiled to herself, feeling a mix of amusement and curiosity, wondering if fate would ever bring them together again, or if this playful encounter would remain a charming secret in her memory. Walking through the wet streets, she felt lighter somehow, as if that brief moment of boldness had given her a tiny dose of courage. A reminder that life was full of small chances and little risks that could make ordinary days feel extraordinary. The rain continued to fall and the city hummed around her, but she carried a small, private joy with her, a memory of a stranger, a laugh, and a playful whisper that had turned an otherwise dull evening into something she would remember for a long time. She didn't know it yet, but this small impulsive act was the beginning of a chain of events that would eventually lead her into unexpected territory, introducing her to someone whose world was completely different from hers, yet strangely connected by that single, spontaneous moment. And though she had no way of knowing it at the time, that brief encounter in a quiet cafe on a rainy evening would become a story she would recount again and again, each time with a little more wonder, a little more amazement at how life could surprise even the most ordinary people in the most unexpected ways. The next morning, she woke up with a lingering smile, thinking about the playful moment at the cafe. It was strange how one impulsive action, a mere whisper to a stranger, could replay in her mind like a small, vivid movie. She had told herself it was just a funny story, nothing more, and yet she felt a spark of curiosity she couldn't shake off. Her day started like any other. She got ready, had a quick breakfast, and left her apartment to catch the bus to work. The city was slowly waking up, the streets still wet from the previous night's rain, and the early sunlight reflecting off the puddles gave everything a soft, golden glow. She felt a sense of possibility in the air, although she couldn't put her finger on why. At work, she tried to focus on her tasks, answering emails and organizing files, but her mind kept wandering back to the stranger. She wondered about him, what he did for a living, and why he seemed so calm and confident, almost untouched by the ordinary stress of life. She knew it was unlikely they would ever meet again. After all, it had been a random moment in a cafe among countless strangers. Yet she couldn't shake the feeling that something about him was different, memorable. Her coworkers noticed her distracted mood, teasing her about daydreaming and asking if she had met someone interesting. She just laughed it off, not wanting to give too much away. But inside she felt a quiet excitement she had not felt in a long time. Meanwhile, the stranger was far from ordinary. He was a successful entrepreneur, quietly influential, someone whose name carried weight in professional circles but who preferred to remain low-key in public. He was focused, driven, and always thinking several steps ahead, yet there was a gentleness to him that few people saw. That night at the cafe had been an unusual break in his routine. Normally, he didn't engage with strangers in such spontaneous ways, yet something about her energy, her boldness, and the lightness of the moment had drawn him in. He found himself thinking about her briefly, a small smile appearing on his face, though he quickly returned to his work, dismissing it as a fleeting distraction. Weeks passed, and life continued its usual rhythm. She attended her work, met friends for coffee, and carried on with her routines. But the memory of that evening remained, like a bookmark in her mind. Then one day, she found herself at a professional seminar she had decided to attend on a whim. She was curious about the topic, but also hoping to meet new people and perhaps gather insights for her own work. As she entered the seminar hall, her attention was drawn to the front where the keynote speaker was being introduced. When he stepped onto the stage, something inside her stirred. She recognized him instantly. It was the stranger from the cafe, the man who had leaned in so playfully that rainy evening. Her heart skipped a beat. She wasn't sure if she should be excited, nervous, or just try to act casual. She took a seat near the middle, hoping he wouldn't notice her too quickly. Yet a part of her hoped he would. As he began speaking, his presence filled the room, commanding attention not through force or volume, but through a quiet confidence and authenticity that made everyone listen. His words were insightful, full of experience and wisdom, yet they carried a warmth that made him approachable. She watched him, fascinated not just by what he said, but by how he carried himself, the subtle gestures, the way he engaged with the audience. She realized that there was more to him than she had guessed, a depth and sincerity that made her even more curious. After the seminar, she lingered near the back, hesitant to leave just yet. To her surprise, he approached her. The smile on his face was familiar, and in that instant she knew he remembered her. They exchanged a greeting, and the awkwardness of strangers meeting for the first time was gone, replaced by a shared understanding of that small, playful encounter at the cafe. He made a joke about the weather and they laughed, the sound light and easy. She felt her nervousness melt away. Here was someone who, despite his professional status and achievements, could still be playful, approachable, and genuinely kind. They found a quiet corner to talk, away from the crowd, and their conversation flowed naturally. She learned about his work, the challenges he faced, and his perspective on life and business. He asked her about her own experiences, listening intently, genuinely interested in her words. She was struck by how rare it was to meet someone so accomplished who was still grounded, who treated her like a peer rather than a mere audience member. They laughed and shared stories, some lighthearted, some more reflective, and she realized that the initial playful moment had opened a door she hadn't expected. It was as if that brief, silly dare at the cafe had broken an invisible wall between them, allowing a connection to form that might never have happened otherwise. As the day went on, they continued to run into each other at networking events, social gatherings, and even casual meetups around the city. Each encounter strengthened their bond, built on curiosity, respect, and a growing sense of comfort. She admired his intelligence, his calm determination, and his ability to navigate life with such focus. He appreciated her spontaneity, her energy, and the way she could find joy in small, unexpected moments. Their conversations grew longer and more personal, and each time they parted, there was a sense of anticipation for the next meeting. She found herself thinking about him often, not in an obsessive way, but with a genuine interest and admiration. There was something magnetic about his presence, a quiet strength that made her feel both excited and safe. She began to realize that people like him, who seemed so different from her ordinary world, could also be kind, down to earth, and capable of connecting on a human level. It challenged her assumptions and made her question the boundaries she had unknowingly placed between herself and the extraordinary. One afternoon, he invited her to a casual lunch at a small restaurant he frequented. She hesitated at first, unsure of what to expect, but curiosity won. As they sat across from each other, the conversation flowed easily, filled with laughter, stories, and shared observations. She noticed the subtle gestures that revealed his thoughtful nature, the way he listened, the small acts of kindness toward the staff, and the genuine interest he showed in her thoughts and experiences. It was different from anything she had anticipated, a mix of familiarity and novelty that made the experience captivating. Over time, their connection deepened. They discovered shared interests, mutual values, and a natural ease that made spending time together enjoyable and effortless. She felt herself opening up in ways she hadn't before, sharing dreams, fears, and personal experiences that she usually reserved for close friends. He responded with empathy, humor, and encouragement, creating a space where she felt seen and valued. It was a rare and special dynamic, one that grew naturally, nurtured by both their willingness to engage authentically. She also began to see glimpses of his personal life, the moments that revealed the man behind the professional facade. He had a close circle of friends and family, a sense of responsibility and care that extended beyond work. He was generous with his time and resources, quietly making a difference in ways that went unnoticed by the broader world. These glimpses only increased her admiration and respect for him, reinforcing the idea that people could be complex, multidimensional, and full of surprises. Throughout all of this, she never forgot the cafe, that small, spontaneous moment that had started everything. It was a reminder that life could be unpredictable, that small acts of courage and playfulness could lead to meaningful connections. She realized that the initial dare, simple, impulsive, and playful, had set off a chain of events that brought her into contact with someone extraordinary, someone who challenged her perceptions and enriched her life in unexpected ways. Their interactions continued to unfold organically, each encounter adding depth and nuance to their connection. They shared experiences, explored new places, and supported each other in personal and professional endeavors. The bond between them was built on mutual respect, curiosity, and an appreciation for the unpredictable nature of life. It was a relationship that grew not from obligation or expectation, but from genuine interest and the willingness to embrace the unknown. As the weeks turned into months, she found herself reflecting on how a single, playful whisper to a stranger had altered the course of her life in subtle yet profound ways. She had learned to embrace spontaneity, to recognize the potential for extraordinary moments in ordinary settings, and to remain open to the possibilities that life offered. The stranger, now a familiar presence, had become a source of inspiration and companionship, someone who encouraged her to explore new perspectives and experiences. In the quiet moments, when she thought about the future, she couldn't help but smile at the memory of that rainy evening in the cafe. It was a small, seemingly insignificant moment, yet it had led to a connection that enriched her life in ways she could never have imagined. She understood that life often worked in mysterious ways, rewarding curiosity, openness, and the courage to take small risks. And as she continued to navigate her days, she carried with her the reminder that extraordinary connections could emerge from the most ordinary circumstances, that a single act of spontaneity could open doors to experiences and relationships that transformed her world. As their encounters continued, the connection between them began to deepen in ways neither of them had anticipated. Each meeting carried a subtle shift, a quiet understanding growing with every conversation, every shared laugh, every glimpse into each other's worlds. She found herself feeling lighter around him, as if the weight of ordinary worries lifted the moment he appeared. It wasn't just attraction. It was the way he made her feel seen, understood, and respected. He listened in a way few people did, not just to respond but to truly comprehend. That quality, combined with his gentle humor, drew her in, making every conversation a small adventure. It was during one casual evening that the real shift occurred. They were at a local art exhibit, something he had suggested on a whim, knowing she loved art. The gallery was quiet, filled with soft light and the faint hum of conversation. Paintings and sculptures lined the walls, each piece telling a story. As they wandered from one piece to another, she noticed how he observed the artwork, not rushing, taking time to absorb each detail, and sharing his thoughts in a thoughtful, unpretentious way. She felt an odd sense of admiration, not for the skill he displayed in understanding the art, but for the respect and curiosity he brought to the experience. It reminded her why she had been drawn to him in the first place, a quiet depth that could turn ordinary moments into something meaningful. They paused in front of a painting that depicted a rainy street scene, much like the evening they had met at the cafe. She chuckled softly, remembering that night the impulsive dare and the brief, playful connection that had started it all. He looked at her with a knowing smile, and she felt her heart race for reasons she didn't fully understand. There was an unspoken acknowledgement of that moment, a shared secret that had silently threaded through their growing relationship. She realized that what had begun as a playful, fleeting act had evolved into a genuine bond, something that felt rare and precious. Over the following weeks, their interactions became more frequent and more personal. They found themselves discussing dreams and fears, ambitions and regrets, not as strangers trying to impress each other, but as two people discovering a genuine connection. She admired how he could balance his professional life with moments of reflection and kindness. He, in turn, appreciated her openness and the warmth she brought into every encounter. There was an ease to their relationship, a natural flow that made each meeting feel effortless, even as the world around them buzzed with chaos. One weekend, he invited her to a small countryside retreat he owned. She hesitated at first, unsure if it was appropriate, but the idea of exploring something new together, away from the city's bustle, intrigued her. When she arrived, she was struck by the simplicity and beauty of the place. Rolling hills stretched in every direction, dotted with wildflowers and small trees. A gentle breeze carried the scent of earth and greenery, and the air felt crisp and pure. It was a world apart from her daily life, yet she felt immediately at ease, as if she belonged in that quiet, peaceful space. They spent the day walking along trails, sharing stories and laughing over small, unexpected moments. At one point, she stumbled slightly on a narrow path, and he reached out, steadying her with a gentle hand. Their eyes met, and for a moment time seemed to pause. There was no rush, no pressure, only the quiet acknowledgement of trust and connection. She felt a warmth spread through her, a sense of being truly seen and valued. It was a small, intimate moment that spoke volumes, far more than words could capture. As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the hills, they sat together on a large rock, watching the sky change colors. The quiet was comforting, and the sense of shared presence between them grew stronger. She reflected on how far they had come since that playful evening at the cafe. What had begun as a fleeting, whimsical act had evolved into something deeper, meaningful. She realized that life had a way of turning small moments into turning points, and that sometimes courage and spontaneity could lead to extraordinary experiences. In the days that followed, their bond continued to strengthen. They explored new parts of the city, attended cultural events, and even tried out new hobbies together. Each experience revealed new facets of their personalities and deepened their understanding of each other. She appreciated his thoughtfulness and the way he balanced ambition with humility. He admired her curiosity, her warmth, and the way she approached life with both courage and joy. Their relationship was a blend of companionship, mutual respect, and quiet affection, growing naturally without any forced expectations. One evening, they found themselves in a small, cozy bookstore. She wandered through the shelves, her fingers brushing over the spines of books while he followed, occasionally picking up a title and sharing a brief comment. They laughed over a particularly odd selection, and she marveled at how even the simplest activities felt special with him. There was a rhythm to their interactions, a flow that made ordinary moments memorable. It was clear that their connection was built not just on shared interests, but on the mutual appreciation of each other's presence. As they left the bookstore, the sky had turned a deep indigo and the city lights sparkled like scattered stars. They walked side by side, talking quietly, sharing small stories and observations about the world around them. She realized that she no longer viewed him as a stranger, or even just an extraordinary figure in the professional world. He had become someone she could rely on, someone whose presence brought comfort, excitement, and a sense of possibility. It was a realization that filled her with both joy and a quiet awe, recognizing the unexpected paths life could take. In the weeks that followed, they continued to meet regularly, each encounter adding depth and nuance to their relationship. They shared meals, went on long walks, and spent hours talking about everything and nothing at all. She noticed how he paid attention to the small details, the way she liked her coffee, her favorite spots in the city, the books she enjoyed. It wasn't grand gestures that defined their bond, but these subtle acts of awareness and care that made her feel valued and understood. Their growing closeness began to stir emotions neither of them had anticipated. She found herself thinking about him at unexpected times, smiling at memories of shared laughter or meaningful conversations. He too seemed to carry a quiet anticipation, evident in the way he looked for her presence, the subtle excitement in his eyes when they reunited. They were not rushing, not forcing anything, yet there was an undeniable energy between them, a magnetic pull that made their connection feel both natural and exhilarating. One afternoon, she invited him to a small community event she had been volunteering with. It was a simple gathering filled with music, laughter, and shared stories. She was nervous at first, unsure how he would fit into this different part of her life. But he arrived with an easy smile, engaging genuinely with everyone around him. She was impressed by his ability to connect with people in such an authentic way, his warmth and humility shining through. The event turned into a memorable day, filled with moments of joy and shared experiences that deepened their bond even further. As they walked home that evening, the streets bathed in the soft glow of streetlights, she felt a profound sense of gratitude. She reflected on how a single impulsive moment, a playful whisper in a rainy cafe, had led to this extraordinary connection. Life had a way of rewarding courage and openness, and she was beginning to understand how small acts of spontaneity could ripple outward, creating unexpected opportunities and meaningful relationships. In the quiet of her apartment that night, she replayed the day in her mind, savoring the memories and the emotions they stirred. She felt a mix of excitement, curiosity, and contentment, realizing that she was part of something rare and valuable. It wasn't about grand gestures or dramatic declarations, but about the simple, authentic moments that built trust, understanding, and affection over time. She understood now that life's most memorable connections often began in the most unassuming ways. Sparked by courage, playfulness, and a willingness to embrace the unknown, she knew that the journey was far from over. There were still many experiences to share, challenges to face, and moments to cherish. But for the first time, she felt confident that whatever came next would be meaningful, shaped by mutual respect, curiosity, and the shared understanding that had grown between them. That small, spontaneous moment in the cafe had not only changed her day, but it had set the stage for a remarkable journey, one that she would remember with wonder and gratitude for the rest of her life. Their connection had grown stronger over time, and yet, each meeting brought something new, something unexpected that kept their bond fresh and alive. One sunny afternoon, he invited her to join him on a small project he was passionate about. It wasn't anything grandiose or public, just a personal endeavor that reflected his interests and values. She hesitated at first, unsure how involved she should be, but the thought of sharing this part of his world intrigued her. When she arrived, she was surprised by how hands-on and personal the project was. It required thought, attention, and collaboration, and he welcomed her input with genuine appreciation. They worked side by side, discussing ideas, problem-solving, and laughing over small mistakes. She noticed how patient he was, not rushing the process, and how he valued her perspective, listening carefully to her suggestions. It was a small but profound insight into who he was, not just a successful entrepreneur, but someone who cared deeply about the process, about the people involved, and about doing things with integrity. She felt honored to be included, grateful for the trust he showed in allowing her to be part of this personal project. As the day went on, they shared more about their past experiences and the challenges that had shaped them. She felt a sense of intimacy in their conversation, a level of honesty that was rare and precious. He spoke about his early career, the struggles he had faced, and the lessons he had learned along the way. She listened intently, appreciating his openness, and found herself sharing her own stories, the setbacks, the small victories, and the moments that had taught her resilience. It was a conversation that built bridges between them, reinforcing the mutual respect and understanding that had grown steadily since their first playful encounter. Later, they took a walk through a nearby park, the sun filtering through the trees, casting dappled shadows on the ground. The air was filled with the sounds of birds, distant laughter, and the gentle rustle of leaves. They spoke less, simply enjoying each other's presence, the comfortable silence that only comes with genuine connection. She realized how rare it was to feel this at ease with someone, to feel that her thoughts and feelings mattered, that her presence was appreciated without question or expectation. It was a simple yet profound affirmation of the bond they had cultivated. In the weeks that followed, they continued to explore both the city and their own lives together. They attended small gatherings, visited new places, and shared quiet evenings at cafes or in parks. Each experience brought them closer, not through dramatic gestures, but through consistent, thoughtful presence. She admired the way he balanced ambition with humility, confidence with kindness, and focus with playfulness. He in turn appreciated her warmth, her spontaneity, and her ability to find joy in the ordinary. Their relationship was growing naturally, built on trust, curiosity, and the shared understanding that life's smallest moments often hold the greatest meaning. One evening, they found themselves at a quiet riverside, the city lights reflecting off the water in a soft, shimmering glow. The air was crisp, carrying the scent of water and earth, and the gentle lapping of the river against the shore created a soothing rhythm. They sat on a bench side by side, talking quietly, sharing thoughts that had been unspoken for days. She felt a warmth spread through her chest, a quiet affirmation that this connection was more than fleeting or superficial. It was real, grounded in mutual respect, shared experiences, and the willingness to embrace vulnerability. As the night deepened, they remained there, speaking less and observing more. The sky was clear, dotted with stars, and she felt a sense of peace she hadn't known in a long time. He reached out, brushing a stray strand of hair from her face, and for a moment, time seemed to pause. It wasn't a grand gesture, but a simple, intimate acknowledgement of the closeness that had grown between them. She felt a flutter of excitement, a mix of comfort and anticipation, and realized that their bond had deepened far beyond the playful beginnings of that rainy evening in the cafe. The following days were filled with small, meaningful interactions. They continued to share meals, explore new places, and discuss their dreams and aspirations. She noticed how he made her feel seen in every moment, how he remembered the smallest details, and how he valued her opinions and thoughts. These gestures, though subtle, reinforced the depth of their connection. She found herself looking forward to each encounter, not out of necessity, but out of genuine desire to share experiences, to laugh, and to grow together. One afternoon, he invited her to his office for a casual meeting, something she had never experienced before. She was nervous at first, unsure how to navigate the unfamiliar environment, but he greeted her with warmth and ease, making her feel immediately comfortable. His office reflected his personality, organized, thoughtful, and filled with meaningful items that spoke to his values and experiences. As they discussed the project he was working on, she observed the care and attention he brought to every detail, the quiet dedication that had driven his success. She felt a renewed sense of admiration, recognizing the depth of effort and passion that defined his life. During the conversation, they shared stories about their childhoods, their families, and the experiences that had shaped them. She found herself laughing at his recollections, moved by his reflections and increasingly aware of the unique bond that had formed between them. It was a connection built on shared curiosity, mutual respect, and the willingness to reveal oneself honestly, without pretense or fear of judgment. She realized how rare and precious this was, and how fortunate she was to have stumbled upon such a meaningful relationship. Their relationship continued to flourish in subtle, beautiful ways. They supported each other's ambitions, celebrated small victories, and comforted each other during challenges. The playful energy that had sparked their first encounter remained, intertwined with a growing sense of trust and affection. She felt a deep sense of gratitude for the serendipity that had brought them together, recognizing that the initial dare at the cafe had set in motion a chain of events that had enriched her life in ways she could never have predicted. One evening, they attended a small cultural event in the city, a music performance in an intimate setting. The atmosphere was warm and inviting, and they settled into their seats, sharing quiet commentary and laughter as the performers took the stage. She noticed how attentive he was, not just to the music, but to her reactions and thoughts. He valued her perspective, and she felt a deep sense of connection in this shared experience. It was in these quiet, seemingly ordinary moments that the strength of their bond became most evident. As the night ended, they walked home under the soft glow of streetlights, the city alive with distant sounds and movement. They spoke less, simply enjoying the presence of each other, the comfortable silence that had become a hallmark of their growing relationship. She reflected on how much her life had changed since that rainy evening in the cafe, how a single playful moment had evolved into a profound connection that enriched every aspect of her life. The thought brought a smile to her face, a quiet acknowledgement of the unexpected beauty of life's twists and turns. In the weeks that followed, they continued to explore new experiences together. They visited small art galleries, attended lectures, and spent time in quiet parks, each outing reinforcing the depth of their connection. She admired his thoughtfulness, his humility, and the way he balanced ambition with genuine kindness. He appreciated her curiosity, her warmth, and the way she brought joy and lightness into every encounter. Their relationship was a blend of companionship, shared understanding, and a deep, growing affection that neither had anticipated but both cherished. Through all of this, the memory of their first encounter remained a cherished touchstone. She often thought about that rainy evening in the cafe, the playful dare, and the brief moment of connection that had set everything in motion. It was a reminder that life could be unpredictable, that small acts of courage and spontaneity could lead to extraordinary experiences, and that meaningful connections often begin in the most unexpected ways. She understood now that the foundation of their bond was built not on grand gestures or dramatic events, but on the quiet, consistent presence and the mutual respect that had grown steadily over time. As she lay in bed one night, reflecting on the journey so far, she felt a profound sense of gratitude. She had discovered a connection that was rare, authentic, and deeply meaningful. It had started with a playful whisper, a small act of spontaneity, and had blossomed into a relationship filled with trust, joy, and the shared understanding that life's most valuable experiences often arise from the simplest beginnings. She knew that the journey was far from over, but she was excited to see where it would lead, confident that the bond they had nurtured would continue to grow and enrich both of their lives in ways they had yet to imagine. The following weeks were filled with a quiet rhythm, moments of joy, reflection, and shared experiences that deepened their bond. Each day brought something new. Sometimes it was a simple walk through a familiar neighborhood, a chance to notice things previously overlooked, or a quiet conversation over coffee that lasted for hours. She noticed how naturally their lives were intertwining, not in dramatic or overt ways, but in subtle, meaningful patterns. His presence had become a steady part of her life, a source of comfort and excitement at the same time. She realized how much she valued the little things, the way he remembered her favorite coffee, the way he noticed when she was tired, or how he always found small ways to make her laugh. He, too, seemed to cherish their connection. He made a conscious effort to include her in aspects of his life that were personal and important. She visited his office more often, not just for professional reasons, but because he wanted to share parts of his world with her. She began to understand the dedication and discipline it took to maintain such a life, and she appreciated the humility and thoughtfulness with which he navigated success. They worked on small projects together, laughed over mistakes, and celebrated progress in ways that felt intimate and genuine. In these moments, she saw him not just as a figure of admiration, but as a person who valued her presence, her thoughts, and her companionship. One evening, he invited her to a small outdoor concert at a nearby park. The sun was setting, casting long shadows and a golden hue over the city streets. As they walked through the crowd, she noticed the ease with which he interacted with people, polite, attentive, and respectful. He introduced her to friends and colleagues, but always with warmth and sincerity, never in a showy or boastful way. She was struck by the contrast between his public persona and the quiet, playful man she had first met in the cafe. He was comfortable in his own skin, confident but never arrogant, and she felt lucky to share in these moments. They found a spot near the front, settling on a blanket as the music began. She leaned back, enjoying the sound, the gentle breeze, and the sense of connection that seemed to surround them. Occasionally, he would glance at her with a small smile, a shared acknowledgement of the journey they had taken together. She thought about the rainy evening that had brought them together, the impulsive dare that had sparked something extraordinary. Life had a way of surprising her, rewarding her willingness to embrace spontaneity and courage, and she felt grateful for every moment. As the evening continued, they spoke about their dreams, hopes, and fears. She shared some of the challenges she had faced in her life, moments of doubt and times when she had questioned herself. He listened with empathy and offered support, not in a way that diminished her experiences, but in a way that made her feel understood and validated. He spoke about his own challenges, the pressures of responsibility, and the lessons learned through both success and failure. These exchanges deepened her respect for him and reinforced the authenticity of their connection. It was rare to find someone willing to be vulnerable, to share openly, and to listen without judgment, and she realized how fortunate she was to have found that in him. Over the next several months, they continued to grow closer, exploring the city and the world around them together. They discovered hidden cafes, quiet parks, and small art exhibits, each outing adding new layers to their relationship. She found joy in the simplicity of these experiences, appreciating the thoughtfulness and care he brought to every moment. He admired her energy, curiosity, and ability to find beauty in the ordinary. Their bond was not built on grand gestures, but on a foundation of trust, understanding, and shared experiences that had evolved naturally over time. One afternoon, they took a weekend trip to a nearby countryside town. She was excited but also a little nervous, unsure what to expect. When they arrived, she was captivated by the charm of the town, the cobblestone streets, the small shops, and the gentle rhythm of life. He guided her through the town with care, pointing out interesting spots and sharing stories about the history of the area. They explored markets, sampled local foods, and wandered through quiet streets, each moment strengthening their bond. She felt a sense of freedom and happiness, enjoying not just the sights, but the company and shared presence that made everything feel special. During a quiet moment by a riverbank, they sat together, speaking softly about the past, the present, and their hopes for the future. She reflected on how their relationship had grown, from a playful whisper in a cafe to a deep, meaningful connection that enriched her life. He shared his perspective, speaking about the importance of openness, trust, and valuing the people around you. She realized how much she had learned from him, not just about life, but about herself. The importance of embracing opportunities, being brave, and allowing herself to connect deeply with others. As the sun set over the river, painting the sky with shades of orange and pink, they sat in comfortable silence, simply enjoying the moment. It was a reminder that life's most meaningful experiences often arise from simple, authentic connections, rather than grandiose plans or extraordinary events. She felt a profound sense of gratitude, recognizing that their journey together had been shaped by spontaneity, courage, and the willingness to embrace the unknown. Back in the city, their days continued to blend seamlessly between work, social events, and quiet moments together. They celebrated small victories, supported each other through challenges, and continued to discover new aspects of themselves and each other. She appreciated the balance he brought into her life, the way he encouraged her growth while respecting her individuality. He valued her presence, her energy, and her perspective, finding in her a partner who complemented his life in unexpected and meaningful ways. One evening, they attended a small community fundraiser, an event she had been involved with for some time. He engaged with the people around them, showing genuine interest and kindness, not in a performative way but with sincerity. She noticed the subtle gestures that defined him, listening attentively, acknowledging contributions, and treating everyone with respect. She felt proud to be with him, not because of his status but because of the integrity and authenticity he consistently demonstrated. It was a reflection of who he was, and she felt fortunate to share in his world. As weeks turned into months, their relationship continued to flourish. They shared countless moments, some quiet and reflective, others filled with laughter and adventure. Each encounter strengthened their bond, revealing new dimensions of trust, affection, and mutual understanding. She realized that the playful moment that had brought them together was now a cherished memory, a symbol of how life could surprise and reward those willing to embrace spontaneity. It reminded her that meaningful connections often begin in the most unexpected ways, and that courage and openness can lead to profound experiences. One quiet evening, they sat together on a balcony overlooking the city. The lights shimmered below, and a gentle breeze carried the sounds of life from the streets. They spoke about their journey, reflecting on the experiences that had brought them together, the lessons they had learned, and the future they hoped to build. She felt a deep sense of fulfillment, recognizing the rarity and value of the connection they shared. It was not based on convenience or circumstance, but on mutual respect, curiosity, and the willingness to embrace vulnerability and authenticity. As the night deepened, they remained there side by side in comfortable silence. She reflected on the extraordinary journey that had begun with a playful dare in a rainy cafe, realizing that life's most meaningful experiences often emerge from the smallest, most unexpected moments. Their relationship was a testament to the power of courage, openness, and the willingness to connect with others in genuine ways. She felt a profound sense of gratitude, knowing that she had found someone who valued her presence, understood her, and shared in the joys and challenges of life with sincerity and care. The following weeks were filled with shared experiences, quiet reflections, and continued growth. They supported each other in personal and professional endeavors, celebrated achievements, and found joy in ordinary moments. She discovered the importance of patience, trust, and consistency in building meaningful relationships, and he appreciated the energy, warmth, and perspective she brought into his life. Their connection had evolved into a deep, lasting bond built not on fleeting impulses, but on shared experiences, respect, and the willingness to embrace life's unpredictability together. As she reflected on their journey one evening, she realized that their relationship had become a defining part of her life. It had taught her about the value of spontaneity, courage, and openness. It had shown her how small moments could lead to extraordinary experiences, and how genuine connection could transform ordinary days into memories that would last a lifetime. The playful whisper in the cafe had set the stage for a remarkable journey, one that had enriched her life in countless ways and would continue to do so in the years to come.